Albert Einstein once observed that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another.
Hi, and welcome to the Satori Show with your host, Amy Satori, your intuitive spiritual counselor. Amy's work centers around the energy that is in everything and everywhere. Her rare ability is to identify the energy from any source, and with the help of her guides on the other side, provides an incredibly accurate assessment of what's really going on. Albeit with people living or past, pets, the human body, and her specialty, twin flame relationships. And now we're proud to announce that the show is live at the Lighthouse Bookstore every Sunday night from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. So you can talk to Amy and see for yourself just how special her abilities really are. Just call 256-291-1191. So now sit back and join me, Kevin McDonald, as we present this episode of The Satori Show.
And welcome to the show, everybody. This is The Satori Show with your host, Amy Satori, who is right there in Boulder, Colorado. Amy, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm fantastic. Thank you, and I'm so excited for our guest today.
Couple things before.
Yeah.
Hold on, Amy. Before we begin, I just wanted to mention, and I wanted to mention at the top of the show, that starting this Sunday, and for hopefully many Sundays to come, we will be live from 6:30 to 8:30 Mountain Time. And you can call the show and actually talk to Amy about anything that you'd like to talk about. It can be twin flames. It can be about your relatives. It could be about your life. It could be about somebody who's passed. It can be your pet. It can be anything. She even talks to your body. And if you don't want to get out of that way, I understand. But it would be great for you to do that. And that number is 256-291-1191. And you can call and talk to Amy live during that 2-hour period. I'm real excited about that. It should be a really dynamic time, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. So I hope you'll do that. And you can also go to www.amysatori.com, and you can book a reading or a session with her, and she can talk to you privately about what is concerning for you. And right now, Amy's going to introduce us to a young lady that's got a rather unusual and dynamic story to tell. Amy, why don't you take it away, my friend?
Thank you so much. Okay, so I have a beautiful, wonderful friend of mine, Chloe, who is going to join us today and talk about her incredible twin flame journey. And the reason hers stands out, it actually doesn't stand out, but it does in a way, in the sense that she has a story that everyone's going to be able to relate to. Everybody's thought they were crazy on this journey. They're seeing the numbers and the signs, and you fall so hard and so fast for this person, and all this magic happens, and you're like, what the heck is wrong with me? And some people are even going to counselors and all kinds of things trying to cope with it, because sometimes it's a little intense, and they're just on your brain 24/7 sometimes. So when she and I had a talk recently, I just really fell in love with her story and thought it would be just a beautiful story to even keep tabs on as we go along on this journey. And you guys will totally be able to relate to it, and I think it would really validate a lot of people who listen to this. So, Chloe?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Tell us about, how did you even know that you had a twin flame? Did you even know about twin flames before this happened, or did it just kind of were you looking for it, or did it just kind of happen to you, or how did you even know the term twin flame or any of that? And how did you come to me?
Well, I'll first say that just owning that word,
and
that's what I have.
By the way, it's 11:11.
Of course it is, because that's what happens anytime you and I connect. Oh my gosh, it is. This whole thing is a trip, and I'll tell you, probably just 2 days ago, could I say, or maybe a few days ago, could I honestly own that and say, yeah, this is actually happening. Whatever word I want to give it, it's I was sharing this with you, just to define it sometimes feels like I'm watering it down, or I can't even express it through words because it feels very otherworldly. But just to say, oh yeah, I have a twin flame, it sounds a little cliche still, but I'm going to own it because of the things that have been happening and what happened a few days ago, which really kind of solidified some stuff and brought it into, you know, my awareness of kind of the big picture on what's taking place. But yeah, prior to this, no, I was never the girl who had this vision of, you know, soulmate, or I've heard the term twin flame here and there, but I just felt a lot of these ideas were wrapped around justifying bad behavior and codependency and, you know, this one person who's for me. And I didn't never really believe that. I never dreamt of the white picket fence or the, you know, having a family or kids, or that just was never a primary driving force in my life or focus, which it was for a lot of my girlfriends. You know, their vision boards and their soulmates and wanting this union to take place and finding their value in another person. And I mean, I always wanted, you know, that type of relationship, but I don't think I ever really believed that it was possible. So it was never a driving force or something that I was always focused on creating or manifesting or wanting in my life. So in fact, most of my life, I've been single. I mean, I've had relationships, but they've all ended in a lot of pain and betrayal and abandonment, which is very reflective of my early childhood stuff. So kind of until I worked a lot of that out, did I start to really open up to self-love. And when I really got into that work in a true sense, it seemed like a lot of this stuff started opening up, which was really, you know, and then I started Googling it, you know, trying to figure out what is happening. This is a trip. Am I creating this? Am I fabricating it? Is it really happening? And when I did that, I came across a lot of articles that didn't resonate with me, with this whole chaser and runner and, you know, all these people sharing their stories. And I just thought, you can twist a bad relationship around in your mind to mean something that it doesn't. And I don't want to do that. I don't want it to be about this guy. There has to be a bigger reason why this is happening. That doesn't have to do with me being with someone. What is this teaching me? And then when I came across you, you're just initially your voice resonated as such truth. And the way that you're approaching this or explaining what's happening from the place of really coming into union with yourself and the whole playing field that it provides for you to work out like deep-rooted false truths about your worth. And, you know, it's really a beautiful experience. And so when I found you, I didn't have anyone to talk to. I mean, I have a few friends who hold space for me and they love me, and, you know, they're not going to be like batshit crazy, but they really will hold space, but they don't get it. They don't understand it because they haven't had the experience. So it's like I can't explain it to them. And so just finding you and having someone to just talk about what was going on was really, really nice. And so that's really why I agreed to come on the show, because it required a lot of courage for me to do that, because I didn't know if this was real. I didn't want to create this whole story on what this means and to validate my worth. And I also didn't want to, you know, expose too much to honor the other person involved. But when I saw your courage and I know what it takes to like really own it and honor it and say, you know what, this is really happening. And actually I do deserve this, which I think most of my journey is wrapped around my inability to believe it has to do with really feeling worthy of experiencing it. So when I saw your courage and being able to stand forth, I thought, you know, it's made such a difference for me in this process, so maybe I can help someone too.
Oh, thank you.
So
that means so much to me.
Well, yeah, but tell us your story already. I'm curious.
Well, you know, I honestly, it's been a whirlwind it's only been a month, and I feel like I'm timeline shifting and going through all of these different experiences, and it's really a trip. Once I got home from actually meeting him, I had to really go back through all of these moments in my mind and tell myself, this actually happened, and that actually happened, and this actually, because I was thinking, am I fabricating this? Because it just seems too supernatural. And I believe that these things can happen. I do. I truly believe in this stuff, but I've never had these kind of experiences. So the fact that, you know, if I could believe someone else can, then why can't I? But I guess to share the story, I met his mother about a year ago, and we became very fast friends. In fact, when I first met her, I recognized her. I knew that I knew her. I didn't know how, but I felt like she had something very special to share with me. And we just became fast friends and really had a lot of common dialogue in regards to this new way of living our lives. I mean, 3 years ago, everything I was giving my power away to, like everything, my relationship, my spiritual home, my business, all of these ways I was seeking to be enough or to validate my worth or, you know, to become the best version of myself, this endless abyss of self-improvement, everything just fell apart. And I went through like a really dark night of the soul. And my relationship came to an end through betrayal, and it was incredibly painful, but it was bringing to light a lot of my deep wounds from childhood and beliefs I had around what relationships look like and my worth and whether I was deserving of love and all of these things. So for 3 years, I kind of threw everything out of the window. You know, I didn't want anything to do with anything spiritual. I thought, you know, there was so much corruption taking place in the spiritual organization I was in. And it was just, I thought everything was bullshit. And so I went into like this cave mode where I let go of everything and just started to figure out who I was outside of any identity. And along that journey, which was really painful and purged a lot, it also healed a lot. My relationship with my father, which I hadn't been in touch with for over 14 years, a lot of healing with my mother as well. And my health took a downward spiral because of the trauma and the pain and a lot of the things I was navigating. And so the work that I'm in is holistic wellness, and it was a beautiful playing field for me to really learn about the mind-body connection and how intricately it's involved in our wellness, because all of I had some, you know, irreversible health challenges that nothing I was doing was taking care of until I started to really focus on the underlying trauma and the wounded self and healing that part of myself, holding those emotions. Did my body actually fully heal? And so when I saw my power in doing that, I realized I had the capacity to kind of create anything. And I knew the power of my emotions and my beliefs and how that interconnected in the physical sense of my embodiment. So knowing that playing field was what prepared me to step into one of my greatest gifts. I now am able to kind of see those challenges and things that trigger those wounds and things that come to surface as a means to step into a fuller embodiment of myself. So that whole process was really remembering the truth of who I am and letting go of a lot of old stories. And so along that same journey, his mother was also on for 3 years. And we kind of started navigating a similar space, and we just had this beautiful dialogue around it. And knowing what I do, you know, her son was having some issues with his skin, and wanted me to speak to him in regards to that, just to see if they can give him any insight. And I knew who he was. I just through her, she'd speak about him often, and I didn't really think one way or another. I wasn't not attracted to him, but I wasn't attracted to him. It wasn't like, oh, you know, I wonder what's going to happen with this. You know, it was nothing, no thoughts. Okay. And but the moment I heard his voice and he told me that he thinks that he's having a skin reaction because he's allergic to his girlfriend, I had, wow. We laughed, but instantaneously in my mind's eye, I said, well, that's because you're meant to be with me and not with her. Like, that was the thought I had instantly. And I'm like, what? Like, where did that come from?
I had that too, yeah.
and it was just like, and then I started feeling all of this, just this dynamic, energetic exchange with him that was like, what is going on? And by the end of the call, he was like, you know, I feel so much better talking to you, and I'd really like to talk to you again. And I knew in his voice that it meant more than just, you know, hey, let's be friends. You know, I felt that he was feeling into what I was experiencing too. And so we just started talking. The first time, it was like we spent 5 hours on FaceTime, and it was like we were lost in a completely different universe of experience. And like I had known him forever, and over the course of maybe a week's time, he had shared every time I would connect with him, or I'd hear from him, or I would think about my experience, I would feel like, oh my gosh, like, holy shit, I feel like I'm in love with this guy. That's crazy. So it was kind of in one ear out the other. But when he told me that the first time his mother told him my name, he already knew what I looked like. And he's had, you know, some clairvoyant experiences in his life. And so he already knew what I looked like. And he said from the first moment he heard my voice, he was in love. He knew he was in love with me, and he loved me forever.
Wow.
And I had felt
he did not.
He did. He did. And when he said it, I knew it wasn't bullshit.
What?
Even though going back over it, I was like, wait a minute, this is crazy. And we both have told each other, we're insane. This is crazy. It doesn't make any sense. What is happening? You know, and within a week's time, we were like, and that's the thing, is just saying the words or expressing it or the connection, it doesn't feel definable. It's like beyond all time, space, continuum. I have always loved him. I will always love him. And it's so unconditional that there's like absolutely nothing that I need or want or need him to change in order to love him. It's never going to stop. And we will always be part of each other's lives, and we know that. But feeling into that experience and completely surrendering into it was what I wanted. But, you know, he's in a relationship, and one of which he really loves her. You know, we weren't looking for this. We weren't seeking it. It wasn't like he was having a hard time in his relationship, or he was seeking validation or wanting attention from other women, because some guys are like that, you know. And I was in a relationship like that, where he was always needing validation and approval and attention, and it really felt like it compromised the sanctity of our relationship. So I would never participate in any.
Wait a minute, though. I mean, I just have to state the obvious. He was allergic to her.
Well,
I mean there's a lot of You can really fake yourself out. You can really try to fit into a situation. You can really try to make yourself think even that this is the perfect situation for you, when it's really not. And you're having to like mold and shape yourself to please the person.
Yeah.
And so there could be some of those elements in there. Many of the masculines, the reason I'm saying this too is because I know the masculines well. And a lot of them have been in denial, and a lot of them have just been being fake. And sometimes they're actually running from the real thing because they are scared of it. They're really scared of it. So they cling to something that makes them feel more comfortable. Sure. And it's, you know, if they break free, they're so much happier with their partner. It's just getting past that hump, you know. Yeah.
And
so go ahead.
And I think, well, you know, I'll pick up on even what you were saying after this part, because it brings up a good awareness that he even has in regards to it. And I mean, I was hesitant to allow myself to really enjoy the connection or participate in it because, you know, 3 years ago, I was in a relationship where my boyfriend was seeking another woman's attention, and I know how it feels to pick up the phone and see this kind of interaction taking place, and it didn't feel good. And I never would want another woman to feel that way. In fact, I had so much anger towards the woman who participated in that, you know, in that dynamic with my ex, because I thought, as a woman, you need to hold the sanctity for other women, and it's really it's really important to honor that. And so that's just the kind of woman I am. So there's so much about this dynamic that has brought forth really identifying where am I operating from my heart, and where am I operating from fear and logic and story and projection. And so it was interesting, the universe showing me this duality experience, or this non-duality experience, which is that on the surface level, what is taking place between me and him could be looked at as the same as what was happening with my ex and this girl, which is they're, having this dialogue or this dynamic, and it's not right and it's not honoring it. But the truth is that between he and I, we weren't looking for it. Neither of us were expecting it or wanting it. And I know that he loves her. I mean, he had no intention on leaving the relationship, and they have challenges. And obviously there's other ways that he knows that it's not the woman he wants to share his life with. But he also feels like he's had a lot in the past, a lot of things that he made this honest commitment to himself that he was going to show up in this relationship and really be that man that he feels that he wasn't in his past. And so for me to step in, it's like shattering that whole belief system around what it means for him to be enough, and what it means for him to, save someone or be happy or make them happy. And his worth is kind of wrapped around that. So we're both, I think, I know, very much aware of how much this bringing together has activated everything, including our deepest untruths, false beliefs around ourselves, our worth, so that we could work it out, and even though there's been moments where it's triggered my stuff around not being chosen, not being desired, not being, am I a fool to think that anyone could really love me this way? Like, if he loves me, why isn't he with me? I mean, in my mind, it's like, I'm ready, let's throw it all up in the air and say, let's go. But at the same time, because there's so much coming forth for me in this process, I also recognize that there's a lot that I'm still coming into union with in regards to myself and loving myself and seeing my value, and that I do deserve this type of union. And the same with him, because there's a lot of shame and judgment around how he could feel this way, when he's in a relationship. And I mean, there's so much caught up in that process. So in the beginning, I was very hesitant to lean into it because I wanted to honor everyone. But at the same time, what we have is so pure and it's so true. And so we just continued to talk, and I was going to visit with his mom where he lives. And at first I didn't want to see him because I didn't know how I would feel. Because we, by the way, never met, at least in this incarnation. And so we'd only talked over the phone or FaceTimed. And so it's like there's just words between us. What if it's different when I see you? What if it's even more when I see you? How do we navigate all of that? And I didn't know if I was ready for it. And we decided I wasn't going to see him. And then he kind of talked me into it and just said, let's just keep it completely platonic, and my mom will be there. So that's a good buffer. And on the way in, he had gotten into a pretty difficult, argument with his girlfriend. And so in my mind, I'm thinking there's some reason why this is all happening as I'm coming into town, and I just want this to honor everyone. I want everybody to be, to be okay throughout this process in whatever way possible. But I felt like he was kind of out the door in that relationship. And so when we met.
Okay.
So go ahead and.
No, yeah, I'm just, the karmics are serving their purpose, and their purpose is for education, training, and learning, just like it all is.
Yeah.
But they're providing a wonderful service, and they are getting them ready for us. That's the way I see it, and I think they should be respected. I won't even contact my masculine. It's like very, very rare that I might ever say something to him, because I want to wait until he's finished with that, until he's done that on his own. And so, yeah, you gotta, be grateful for them, because whatever it is they're working out between them is actually getting them ready for you. So,
well,
I'm
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. No, you go ahead.
Well, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Even though at times I have moved into like really wounded places of myself and what this means about me, which is fine because I needed to work that out. But for the most part, I see it so clearly, and I know that he does too. Like there's many ways that we kind of show up for each other in ways that each other are lacking to a degree, but there's so many ways that he's so aware, and so it's not like a lot of these stories I read about these divine masculines, and how, and I'm sure it plays out perfectly for whoever, in each person's experience. That's through their filter, that's through their soul's, greatest good. But for mine, I'm just so grateful that he has the awareness of what's taking place. Like, he knows that he still has things he needs to work out. He knows the way that he feels for me is unconditional. It's not like we need to define it or put it into a box or need to have it in a certain way, because I think like what we're being taught is anything but traditional. And it's so nice to know at moments. Sometimes I've questioned it, but it's nice to know that I really trust him, that he knows what he's doing, and that this is perfectly orchestrated. And I really don't need it to happen in a month. I don't need it to happen in a year. I want the union, because when we actually came together, that the light of this love was so powerful that it activated everything. Like, it activated the deepest, most profound love I've ever felt in my life, like pleasure beyond what I could even articulate. And the light like shone so much on the entirety of my human experience, even the darkest recesses of my soul, things that I thought I worked out. And maybe it's not even mine. I was thinking like maybe a lot of this stuff, because I'm so empathetic, it's his stuff that I'm helping him work out too, because I'm like, why am I feeling this way about myself and about my worth and about my, my dad and my mom and all this childhood shit? And I'm like, I've worked out all that stuff already. Like, why am I feeling so, like, do I still have this stuff, that I need to work out? But I feel like we're helping each other through this mirroring process of bringing to the light of, because those belief systems and the wounded parts of ourselves and the judgments and the fear, that's what convolutes the purity of what this is, and that separates us from what this is. So we both have to own, that's the only work here. It's not about what can I do for him to come, or it's not even like I need to hang on to the belief that twin flames will eventually be in union, and it's just like there's no way that you can avoid that. It's going to happen. I don't even need that to solidify, because it's not what this is about for me. I know that all of this work, or what is coming forth, is just the illusionary experience of who I'm not, so that I can step into a fuller embodiment of who I am. Because when we're heart to heart, he and I, it's unbelievable. It's otherworldly. It's like, I don't even know what fifth dimensional means, but I do know what it means. But if it's that unconditional love space where there's just infinitely interesting, infinitely pleasurable, infinitely loving, infinitely accepting, that's it. But when we're in our fears or our judgments or our shame or whatever, we have a completely different experience of each other. It's like we're in a different planet, having these storylines play out that have nothing to do with the truth of what we share. And it's just us processing our own stuff. So coming together right now before we work that out, it's so strong that it brings forth so much stuff that I don't know if we're ready to be in union right now. I mean, I feel like we already are in union, but in the physical sense, it's such an intense energy that it's calling forth all of our stuff, everything that needs to be worked out.
Okay, there are a bunch of people that are sitting on the edge of their seat, just like I am, and they want to ask the question, okay, so you met him. What was that moment like when you looked into his eyes and you met him for the first time?
Well, you know, even on FaceTime, we would just like stare at each other, you know, with like no words. And I wasn't as nervous as I thought I was going to be, but, you know, it was the entire time with him. There were moments where we had just us, where we could really sink into it. But then most of the time there were other people. So it was kind of like we couldn't really fully like be with each other in the truest sense that we want to, because there's so many other things. So the first time I saw him was at dinner with his mom, and his mom knows how he feels about me and how I feel about him. And yeah, it was this beautiful recognition of just, I already know him, you know, like it doesn't feel like we've been apart. It was just very much so like, yeah, this makes sense. And while we were having dinner, he started like rubbing my leg under the table. And I was like, well, what? Wait a minute. I thought we were TV Big's platonic, you know? But then I'm thinking, well, all that took place with his girlfriend on the way here. Maybe he's on his way out. Like I didn't really know. And I had a few margaritas because I needed one. And when we left, he came back to the place we were staying, and we just sat up and talked. And, you know, one thing led to another, where it was like we had been in a desert for 40 years, completely parched, and just immersed ourselves in the, you know, like replenishing of each other. And he freaked out. He kind of freaked out after, because of what it meant about him, you know, that he is even engaging with another woman while he's in a relationship. And, you know, and for me, to be honest with you, I was so surprised, because I'm not that kind of woman. But that's the thing, is this isn't me being that kind of woman. And for me to see that, it helped me look at what happened with my ex and the woman he was with from a different perspective, because nothing's ever right or wrong. You know, it is. And that's the law of non-duality, which is when you shift out of the third dimensional space, which is right or wrong, up or down, left or right, bad or good, shame, you know, judgment, fear. That is a very low vibrational realm. And within that space, you know, you can have two very similar situations, but both be completely different, because it's through the filter that you look at. The filter that I was looking at with my ex was through one of a wounded, you know, a lot of pain and things that I had to deal with, so that I could let go of these belief systems that weren't even mine, had nothing to do with me. And so it's just, there's been so many experiences I've had where it's showing me it could be looked at as a very negative thing, or not okay thing, or a shitty thing, but it's really not. It's so pure and beautiful. And it's just the confines of what we put, or the labels we put on things, and what it means. And so for him, you know, I was just in this kind of cloud-like, blissed out state, and he really freaked out. And then he was supposed to kind of continue with us on the second part of our journey, and I wasn't sure if he was going to come. And he ended up coming. And so we again decided to keep everything completely platonic. And gosh, I really hope that he doesn't hear this. So, because I don't want to compromise the integrity of his process either, but at the same time, it's just a fear. It's a fear of that isn't real either, you know?
Okay,
so that's another element of it.
I got to stop you again, because anyone who's listening to this can tell that you are an honorable, honest woman of integrity who is completely living your life from your heart and from the purest place possible. You are not the other woman.
Yeah.
You are definitely not the other. In fact, you are the woman. She is the other woman. And once he gets past that, his own beating himself up, and gets over what's happening here, he'll realize you're it. Mm-hmm. And what he's doing now is just learning how to get over his own self-sabotage and his own beating himself up, which is completely unnecessary, and it's just keeping him from being his happiest self and living his happiest life. So it's like, once we get out of our own way, we can step into that. And it's a show that I did yesterday, actually, just encouraging everybody to, instead of getting totally, completely enthralled in these karmic relationships or even soulmate relationships, once you know who your twin flame is, do the platonic thing with the other ones. The other ones is the point. Come together with your twin flame, and if you can't right now, then let it be platonic. Don't involve sex. Don't get it all mucked up. Don't get codependent. Yeah. Don't get yourself in a situation you can't get yourself out of, and then get to your twin as soon as you possibly can. And, if we all do that and we all conquer our fears, and the feminine is very much going after what it is that's triggering them also, and they're working these women are such honorable. I mean, it's such an incredible honor to be helping these women, because I wouldn't want to be with people who aren't twins, in a sense. Like, they're complaining a lot, and they're whiny, and they're victims, and they're, it's like, ugh. And yes, I'm happy to help those people too, but man, when I get to work with feminines, with twin flame feminines, oh my gosh, my heart just cracks open, and I get to hear these beautiful stories. And these women are just beautiful, incredible goddesses, like really in their power, and they're independent, and they're happy, and they're passionate about what they're doing. And it's so beautiful. And you just know that when these two come together, it's just like this going to be this powerful ignition in the world all over the place. So I'm all about,
I agree with
just
you
treat
there.
it as it's all an education and a training. But, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I agree. And even for us, it was like, he was feeling he had some things he needed to work out before he's ready for me. And he's like, if I were to lean into my heart space, this was before, our trip together, but he's like, if I were to lean into just my heart and get out of my logic and all of the fears and all of that, I would sell all my shit. I'd come get you. We'd elope, and we'd go travel the world. We have the same vision and the same desire on what we want our lives to look like, and.
Okay. So here's what's funny too. Okay. So if you were God and you really, really wanted two people to come together, what would you do? It's like, what you would be like, I don't know, sending all kinds of signs and creating synchronicities, and you'd be like putting that person on the other person's mind all the time, and you would be creating the most incredible miracles to try and make it happen desperately, wouldn't you? If you were God trying to make this happen, wouldn't you be trying so hard to make these two come together? And wouldn't you be a little bit frustrated that person, or maybe both of them, were self-sabotaging and just, I don't deserve it, and they were in this space of and just staying stuck when you know what they're capable of and what you created them for, and what is possible for them, like you guys? You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be incredibly frustrating? And can't you see also why it's like there's no coincidence why these why these are so synchronistic and magical and paranormal in a sense. It's like, duh, something is trying to speak to you. Like, why are we ignoring that? You know?
And I've had so many moments like that where, I mean, I know that he and I were brought together because we're here to teach each other how to truly love unconditionally and what it looks like, you know, which is because for me, like even while we were together and that we were having so many of these like amazing heartfelt connections. And I mean, prior to us meeting, neither of us could sleep. I was having all this energy moving through my body, and like, it was a lot. It was a lot for me to process and handle, like what is taking place. And I had this dream where I was holding these two amethyst heart-shaped crystals, and they engulfed my hands in violet flame, and they both were like tingling and vibrating. It was almost like I could hardly stand the feeling of it. And then after that, I had this vision where he and I were sitting face to face, and his right hand was over my heart, my left hand over his, and then my right hand on his heart, and then his left hand over mine. And we were just staring deep into each other's eyes with just complete acceptance and fully seeing each other, like the dark and the light, the totality of who we are, and just pure unconditional acceptance. And we were healing each other's hearts. And the day that we told each other we loved each other, which was 1 week into knowing each other, I found a heart-shaped amethyst crystal, and I sent it to him because I wanted him to have it as a reminder that he'd always have that loving acceptance of the totality of who he was with me, and that the dark and the light, even if at times the wounded parts of myself may communicate otherwise, that I'll always love him in that way. And so I sent that to him. He didn't get it until he got home, which at that point we weren't heart to heart. But it was good because it's the whole meaning of it still held true for me. And, while we were on the road, we were having these intense connections. And then, we had to keep everything on, like, under the wraps in a way, which didn't feel good to me because I didn't want to be the woman that's hidden and the woman that isn't, that we can't fully express how we feel about ourselves in front of people. And I felt like I knew I wasn't the other woman, but I felt like that. And I didn't like the way that felt. I also, I know that he was weaving in and out of really fully experiencing everything that I was experiencing. I mean, the moments that we were having was just completely otherworldly. It was unbelievable. And then 3D stuff would happen where we still have things that are taking place that would kind of bring us out of that cloud and down back into like solid, I wouldn't say real life, but this experience. And then he would, get into his fears and his shame and his judgments around himself around it. And then I'd feel his space. And then I'd feel like he was pulling away or rejecting me. I would take his feelings or his process as a reflection of my desirability, or if his feelings were fading for me. So it was triggering a lot of my wounded stuff. My mom was on drugs and alcohol and always with men, and never taking care of me my whole life. And so I always registered that behavior as a reflection of me not being enough. Like, if I was enough, then why wouldn't she want to be with me? Or, why am I not chosen over these things? Why does she want these experiences more than she wants to be with me? And the same with my father. I mean, my mom cheated on him, so he jumped into a marriage like head first and fully committed to his family and left me behind. And so I always felt, if I was enough, then why would my dad leave me behind? Why would he choose another woman over me? So even though I've worked a lot of that stuff out and realizing, my mom had a lot of pain and trauma and wounds when she, like, sexual abuse and things growing up. So all she was doing was navigating her own pain the best she could, and it had nothing to do with how she felt about me. It had everything to do with how she felt about herself. And the same for my dad. So from a young age, I was carrying these belief systems around my worth, and like that their behavior had something to do with my lovability, and it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with their unhealed stuff, and I just carried it as my own. And so for you know, for the guy that I'm speaking of, when he went into his wounded place, it triggered my wounded stuff. And I know that now, that all that he was navigating had nothing to do with how he feels about me, but it registered as that. So I would start to like create space with him, or tell him that I think it's best we go our separate ways. And I didn't really mean it. I just found myself, like in retrospect, like subconsciously pushing him away to try to see if he would fight to close that gap. And it was showing me, holy shit, I have this belief system all around what love needs to look like. You know, if someone really loves me, they're going to fight for me. They're going to choose me. Nothing's going to be more important than me. But that's not what love is. That's just what that little girl needed so desperately when she was young, to solidify love. But it's not what real love is. And just the fact that he's not giving that to me doesn't mean that he doesn't love me. It doesn't mean that he's not feeling the same thing that I am. Because when he would move in and out, and the fact that he wasn't like willing to just be like, okay, let me work this out and I want to be with you, I'm thinking, well, not that I think he was, you know, bullshitting me or he was fooling me, but maybe that our connection wasn't the same. Maybe I'm feeling things more than he is. Maybe I'm fabricating a lot of this, and it's not as intense for him, because if, you know, I'm so clear about what it is for me. This is the man I want to be with. And he told me, you know, like, I know when we're going to be together, this is it. But then he's also fondling with the idea of polyamory. Like, wait a minute, I've never been in love with two women. Does that mean that I'm polyamorous? And I think that he has a lot of fear about fucking it up. Like, he really wants to make sure that when we do come together, that he doesn't. And in my heart, I feel like our love will heal everything. Like, there's nothing we need to be or do, because it's already here and now. It exists, you know? But through that process, it brought up a lot of my stuff. And we just, when I was in my wounded place, he was in his wounded place, and we were just too fragile to hold space for each other. And by the end of the trip, I had gone through feeling incredibly rejected and really, really hurt. And he was like, my feelings for you haven't changed. Like, I don't, you know, and I'm feeling like they had, you know?
Right.
And so by the end of the trip, there was just constant triggers and things that just kept taking me more and more into this place of feeling rejected. And so by the time he got home, he had that crystal waiting for him. And I had sent him a letter just all about everything that had taken place in my experience, and everything I just shared with you. And
I did read it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
That was really beautiful.
And I just really wanted to express fully everything that I see the situation and how it's playing out so perfectly. Like, I know, even if I don't know if I believe in that one union, and to a degree I do, because it feels like that state, which is really you coming into union with you, because it's your soul, you know, it's another part of your soul. So when you learn to fully love yourself fully and let go of all of these false truths that aren't you, you come into oneness with you. And then as a reflection, it's like that final stage before total ascension or union with all that is, which is that counterpart, and where you're just reflecting back to each other who you are. But so I can see that happening, but I don't have this belief around or desire for that needing to solidify or make me okay or make this experience or my life more meaningful. It's so beautiful. The entire thing that's playing out is such a beautiful, epic experience that's so, it's like the ultimate way of experiencing unconditional love. And I think that he and I are here to teach each other what that looks like, and it's the truest sense, what it feels like. And then also to learn how to love ourselves enough to know that we deserve to feel and experience a love like this fearlessly. Because that's another part of it. I think swallowing the truth that this could actually be real, I think a big part of not allowing myself to do that was that, who am I to deserve that? Am I just fooling myself to think that I deserve a love like this or a connection like this? You know, and I didn't want to psych myself out or lie to myself because I've been let down so many times in the past. But it's not him, it's me. What I'm feeling is my own ability to have the capacity to feel a love this deep. And that's pretty fucking profound that I have that capacity. And even
what if you lose it?
And what if I lose it? And that's the thing is, with him, he showed up a lot of ways on that trip, and where I'm like, in retrospect, like, that was not okay. That wasn't the kind of person that I want. You know, like he really didn't, he did a lot of things that just felt a little kind of childish or insensitive to my experience. But I realized that's exactly what I needed. And how I showed up is exactly what he needed. And, you know, it really, and also the fact that even in another relationship, if a guy was like, I would be like, bye, no thanks. And for some reason with him, it's like, I love him. Like, I don't care if he changes anything. Like, he doesn't have to become anything else. I love him, and that nothing's going to change that. And I think that the only reason why we would show up in those ways that would trigger each other was not because that's who we are, but just because we have some untruths we're working out, you know? And so and he didn't do anything to create the wounds that I have, and the same with me for him, but it's our responsibility to feel that from within, to unravel it, if you will. So, and I'm grateful because him coming into my life has brought a chance to fully heal all of that, because it's like that's the only thing that's responsible for creating the space between where I am and what I really want to experience in this lifetime. And
well, let's just for a moment set you aside, and I just want to focus on, if I had a girlfriend that I had to go talk to somebody because I thought she was giving me a rash and I was allergic to her, I'm pretty sure. I'm sorry, but I haven't been able to get past that. I'm pretty sure that I probably wouldn't want to be with that person.
But here's the thing: is that he went to the dermatologist and all this stuff, and they said it's some contact thing, and it could be in his building or it could be her, because when he's on the road or traveling, even when we were together, his skin cleared up like almost completely. And when he's traveled before, it wasn't just with me, but when he's traveled before, it clears up. But when he's home, you know, and this is the thing, he is so brilliant. He's so intelligent and wise and knowing. I trust him to figure this out, and I feel like he knows. And it's not even like I need him to figure it out so he comes back to be with me. There's just a part of this separation that's, I feel, really healthy for both of us, you know? Like, I'm really grateful for it. Even at first it was hard because it changed a lot. It changed the dynamic with me and his mother, you know? It changed. There's so much that I didn't know if I was fabricating. And, I mean, after this trip was when I contacted Amy, and just to be able to express all the different dynamics and what took place. And, you know, we just have this incredible connection. I mean, even today, I was thinking about the call, and I was reflecting on different points that maybe I would want to share. And, you know, and he messaged me. And even when I sent him the letter, he wrote back right away. And I hadn't heard from him a week, but I was fine. It's just, I already feel like we're in union. I do. And I feel him with me.
Do you feel him with you?
Oh, yeah.
We said that at the same time. Oh, my God.
I do. And even when, like, my main focus right now, even after working through all of that, is just how can I live in my joy? Like, what makes me happy and, you know, light. I was driving to my friend's house on the way back from LA, and I was going to meet him at his house, and I was talking with the universe and just saying, you know, what I really feel like I need to be doing right now is just keep it light. Just be whatever my life would look like. I need to live that now as if he's here, or whatever that my joy and my passion, like, just be light. And then I was driving, and to my right there was like this Miller Genuine Draft brewery place, and they had these big pillars that just said light all across it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I need to keep it light. I got that message. And then I said to myself, okay, because I messaged Amy for a second reading for some other things that had come up. And on my ride, I said, okay, I need a clear sign. Like, I have had all of these signs and like these synchronicities and two birds and the 1111, like all these different number things, and times where he and I are thinking the same thing. You know, just this tantric energy that's constantly taking place, even if we're not physically in union. There's just so many things that are happening. But I was like, I need a very clear sign, like no trying to spin my wheels on it, of trying to make it something that it might not be. Like, no doubt that this is real and that this is happening, because I feel like I could be a little on my own here in it. And
I just want to say something else. These things just pop in my head, and I got to say them. Okay, so this whole thing about you feeling like, well, you know, we don't necessarily have to be together, but it's a really great growing experience. And yes, that's true. But I happen to believe that it's important that they get together at this time. Yeah. I just feel it. I feel the pressure of it. I feel I'm getting all these messages and things. For some reason, it's like it's probably part of I know that it's part of the new Earth forming, and whatever's going on the other side, like, needs that support, needs that help. That's why it's so. That's why there's so many, like, all those signs and everything are just that, yes, they're growing and developing you, and yes, it's a very gentle, trusting, divinely guided thing. Yes, however, I do believe at this time. Meaning, gosh, I don't know how many years we're talking here, but this year and next year are huge for twin flames coming together. After that, I think there's going to be like a year coming up where it's just going to be, there's just a cutoff, and that's it. If you're not together by then, it's not going to happen, and some major shifts are going to happen. And if the people, you know, if these twins aren't in the proper union, they're going to be kind of screwed. Yeah. So I just feel that intuitively. And that's why I'm trying to be like, come on, guys, let's get over our fears. Let's get over our stuff and do this thing. So, well, yeah. And so anyway, it's not, I mean, it's not for this romantic story is what I'm getting at. It's not for this, like, bring these two that are so in love together. It's even like there's a bigger mission. There's something bigger going on here that the universe is trying to urgently get us to go towards. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
and it makes sense. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to throw in there, since Amy said that I get messages through music, and I listen to talk radio a lot. And on two occasions this last week, and we're going to talk about this in the next show that we do, but I got messages through song, and so I was listening to talk radio, and I decided to change the channel to my music station, and the song that was playing was from Metallica, and it says, "Nothing Else Matters." That's the name of the song. Nothing Else Matters. And then 2 days later, I was listening to talk radio on my way home from work again, and I decided to listen to the music station again, and the same song was playing. Nothing Else Matters. And that's the message that I'm getting, is that at the end of the day, nothing else matters. except getting together.
So yeah, I mean, if this is what they say, if we're ushering in this new earth paradigm of really creating that energetic shift through the union of unconditional love and what that really looks like, you're shifting consciousness on the planet, and for me, it's such a huge relinquishing, because I don't feel like my divine purpose is to, there's a lot of things that I share in my own journey that is helpful for other people, but I've never felt like my divine purpose is to be this person or to bring this message or to, share this truth or to help people heal or, I feel like through my own embodiment of the truth of who I am and living in that vibration is the greatest impact I can have on this planet, of helping to others see that reflection in themselves. And so just the fact that, okay, if we do have a divine purpose and if this is part of mine, it feels perfect for me that I could just be and sink into that space of love. And through that union, just alone is what's going to create the shift. It's not having to be a certain thing or to have a certain message or to develop a marketing plan around it or to post on Instagram or, there's so much around that whole thing that didn't resonate with me as making a difference in this world, which a lot of people do, which is fine. We all feel we're called to certain things. But this does resonate with me. And just that beingness.
And I just have to interject. And by the way, we've been talking with Chloe, and she's been telling us about her twin flame journey, and which continues. And Chloe, we need to wrap up this podcast, but I would like some information from you as far as where do you see this going, and maybe perhaps Amy can chime in too. When, Amy, do you think that this is going to come to fruition?
I'm getting 3 months. Something significant is going to happen. I'm actually seeing that there are things going on behind the scenes you're unaware of. In approximately 3 months, you guys will actually be together in a relationship. And I really hope that for you. I hope my intuition's right.
and his skin will clear up too.
Yes.
Oh my God. Well, the interesting thing is that when I was driving into my friend's house and I asked for that huge sign, I said, I need something very, very no doubt that this is happening and this is real. And when I got to my friend's house, he was kind of asking me what the new unfolding is in this regard. So I was kind of sharing that with him. And his friend was there. It was the first time I met him. And he was like, wait a minute, what did you say? And then so he got out of his seat and came up, sitting down where I was sitting and just had his hands in his face and was like, holy shit, oh my God, I'm having the same experience. So tell me about this. So he's telling me all these things that he's experiencing. He's in a relationship. The other girl that he is in a relationship, they're having this incredible soul connection, this knowing, and all of this stuff is taking place. So we're for hours just sharing our mutual experiences, and I was just I couldn't believe, just the fact that he's sharing that he's having these experiences too was solidifying the the sign that I asked for in a really huge way, and that even tripped me out even further. Oh my gosh, I am not making this up. I am not going crazy. This is actually happening. And so, yeah, that was really, really, really trippy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you. We really appreciate you taking the time and putting yourself out there, because it takes a great deal of courage to put yourself out there the way you have today. And I'd like to thank you, because the information that you are providing and have provided will help other people that are in similar situations that are going, wait a minute, I'm not alone. This is real, and this is happening to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and just my only, the only other thing I'd like to add is just knowing that it's a union of you, you know? And so the whole process is about that coming home to the truth of who you are and that true loving of yourself in all ways. And for me, part of that process was holding space for whatever was arising and to allow myself to feel that and be with it and acknowledge it and love myself there. And then also to let it go and to move from that space into a more joyful space and a more loving space and have fun, you know, and live as if the union already is here, because it is. I already feel in union with him.
Totally.
And I know that no matter what, you know, we will always be in each other's lives. So I don't know what it's going to, I mean, I'm telling you what's happened in a few weeks or a month's time, it is a trip. So I can only imagine I mean, it's almost like every day something is shape-shifting and changing and just amazing messages and synchronicities. And I feel like we are living in a time where we are quite literally moving into a whole different space of consciousness on this planet. I know it. And I just feel like it's really cool that it's actually happening, you know, and I've been on a spiritual journey for so long. So, and all of this resonates as truth, but it felt like I was moving through mud, like nothing major was shifting. And now it feels like, wow, we are really on the precipice of a grand awakening and an ascension taking place on this planet. And it's really cool. It's really, really cool and beautiful. And
shit's going down.
Yeah, right? And sometimes I forget, and then I have to remember, like, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. It's like supernatural, you know?
Totally.
And it's beautiful. What a beautiful way to remember the truth of who you are. So I feel really grateful that I have this experience, even though at times it can be difficult, you know.
Well, it's also very healing for you, and it's very healing for him.
Yeah.
And you're discovering things about yourselves that you had forgotten. Amy has had the same experience where she's remembering things now that she had totally forgotten. And she can now address those issues because she now remembers them.
Yeah.
Going deeper and deeper all the time.
Yeah.
By the way, this is the Satori Show, and you're listening to Amy Satori and Chloe and myself, and it's been a wonderful podcast. And I hope that you will listen to all of our podcasts. Just go to the satorishow.podbean.com and download we've got 53 shows, including this one. And there's some incredible information there. I hope you'll take advantage of it. Or go to amysatori.com, and you can get into a session with Amy, and she can help you figure out what's going on with you. Amy, anything else that you'd like to add before we close this podcast?
No, as I was listening to Chloe this whole time, I so resonated with it, and I know so many feminines are going to be hearing this. And if you're not in this heart space where you are at, where we are at, that's where you're going to get. So work on that. Work on you. Work on, don't make it about the relationship. Make it about how you're growing and how you're learning and how you're striving and stepping into your passion and stepping into your power. Just keep this. Listen to this over and over if you need to. I could just really feel her heart and feel so much love. And he is going to be one hell of a lucky guy when you guys get together, and vice versa. And it's going to be incredible to see. So I just hope you'll keep us posted and let us know as things start to happen for you guys. This is so exciting. I hope to go to lots of weddings coming up that I helped to make happen.
Right? That's funny.
I would like to add one more thing to our audience, because Chloe, you brought up a very, very interesting and clear point that you have a lot of integrity. And your integrity doesn't allow you to be, quote unquote, the other woman and to cheat necessarily. And I just want to, because everybody that I know, virtually without exception, has been cheated on or cheated one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, People, please just stop it, would you? Have some integrity.
Just get with your twin flame already.
Get with your twin flame and honor the commitment that you made to yourself first. But do it with integrity. And if somebody gives you a rash, it's probably not the best relationship.
My God.
So I know I've been kidding about that, but
or if they douse your fire.
Yes,
or
if they dump on you,
fire.
If they don't allow you to soar and be the person that you are destined to be, then that's probably not the best person for you to be with, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So, having said all that, Amy, would you like to say what you have been saying? And this month we expect to have some interesting validations about what you say.
Yeah. Just remember that fear isn't real. It truly is an illusion.
Yeah.
And everybody, take care of each other, have integrity, be honest, do something nice for yourself today. Do something nice for somebody else. And, we'll see you next time on The Satori Show.
You've been listening to The Satori Show. Please visit Amy's website, www.amysatori.com, to find out more about this incredible talent. The views expressed during this podcast are those of the host, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of management or the owners of this podcast. What you need to know is that Amy is a wonderful teacher, guide, and communicator for the unseen world. What she does not pretend to be is a doctor, fortune teller, seer of world events, or predictor of what is to come. What Amy presents is real, based on her understanding of the world and communication with that unseen world. As always, you're free to decide for yourself as to what to believe. Regardless, we love and accept you completely just as you are. And thanks again for listening to The Satori Show.